Good evening, everyone, and we're going to call the regularly scheduled council meeting for January 22nd to order. I'm Kevin Murdoch, the mayor of Oak Bay. As we call the meeting to order, we'd just like to acknowledge that we're gathered today on the traditional territories of the Coast and Straits Salish peoples, specifically the Lekwungen people known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and just honoring that their connections to these lands and waters continues to this day. Up first is just approval of the agenda. I have a mover and a seconder. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. We have adoption of the minutes. We have two. We have a 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock meeting to the regular council meeting of January 8th, moved and seconded. Any changes, corrections, or amendments on those minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. My mayor's remarks are brief this evening, mostly just to remind anybody watching and interested that our application time for the Accessibility Committee and the Board of Variance are both still open. There is also an opening on the police board that we are looking to fill, so that would be through a provincial process, not a municipal process. But filling the big shoes of Wendy Zink, who has served for many years on that, but has hit the maximum time allowable. And the only other thing is just told I had to just mention the fact that some random organization named Oak Bay, the #2 community in Canada to live in, based on some collection of stats. I don't weigh those all that heavily. But I do, it never hurts to sit back and reflect that we do actually live in a wonderful place, and most of the issues that we deal with, I think most municipalities and people in the world would give their right leg to be able to have these are their problems. So certainly very grateful for the place that we live and the wonderful community that we have. We moved to public comment and question period. We don't have a big audience in the thing here tonight, but this is anybody online who wishes to talk to council about items not on the agenda tonight, but of general interest to the community are welcome to come forward. Is there anybody in the room here who wishes to come and just address us on any general pieces? I think given the lists I have here, I think everybody's here probably for agenda items. So I don't see a lot of hands popping up online. Tell you what, if a hand pops up in the next minute, I'll come back to the public participation period, just confirming no one in the audience is here for that. That's perfect. We will move to item 6.1, the dock condition assessment. And that is, we have Ms. Bay, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, who is just providing this. This is a request for a report that came out of council some time ago. The report is completed. There's nothing here for us other than to receive it, and it will, of course, inform future marina and land use decisions there. But Ms. Bay, perhaps a brief overview.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted, on June 26th of last year, Council, through a motion arising, directed completion of a condition survey of the Oak Bay Marina docks. Herold Engineering was commissioned to complete the survey. They have now completed their inspections. Their basic conclusion was that the dock is in fair to good condition overall and that there are no major safety concerns. There were areas of localized damage and deterioration identified, and they recommended some maintenance activities to preserve and extend the dock's service life. Just to note that the docks are, of course, the private property of Oak Bay Marine Group. Oak Bay Marine Group did provide feedback on the report, and they indicated that it is committed to a prudent dock maintenance program while balancing the limitations under the current short-term lease arrangements. They're 1 year into their 5-year lease. We do have Herold Engineer Roxanne Duigou available online to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. I don't see the consultant online right now, but if we need them, I try and bring them into the meeting. Are there any questions of staff or the consultant on this report? Councillor Watson.
I did just have one question as just a matter of interest with respect to the floats, the polystyrene billets, and I was just interested to know, it looks like some portion of them are encapsulated and some of them are not. I was just curious in the modern context, if you were doing that today, what would be the requirement for a float from an environmental perspective?
Ms. Bay, do you have any particular knowledge on that?
Your Worship, I would direct that to the consultant, please.
Is the consultant online? I don't see them. That's on the piece here, so. I don't think the consultant has joined us yet. Maybe they thought we might take a bit longer to get to their agenda item.
Your Worship, I did have indication, an email indication just minutes ago that they were in fact listening in, so I don't know, there may be some technical issues at their end.
I wonder if they're just viewing the live stream or something at this point and haven't. What I might do is we can put the motion to receive on the table, and I might just ask that we just what would be the right term for this, to just put it in hold, and then come back in 5 minutes after the next item. Moved and seconded for receipt. Since we can't take any other questions, I think we'll just, at this point, what's the proper term here, Ms. Williams, for if we're going to actually move this, just to suspend this item, to defer it, table it, thank you, to table this matter following 6.2. If that's okay. Moved and seconded, thank you. All those in favor, tabling, any opposed, not opposed, we'll come back to that in just a minute. Item number 6.2, we have award of RFP for Carnarvon Park Master Plan Refresh and Main Building Options Analysis. We're lucky to have Mr. Graham here, just coming back into the room. And I'll hand it over to you if you wish to just give a brief overview. We do have the report here, of course, in front of us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item relates to the Council Priority Project to design the main building for Carnarvon Park. It is a multi-phase project, this initial phase being to refresh the Carnarvon Park Master Plan and conduct an options analysis on what building would best provide the level of service this facility must deliver. The options analysis, or feasibility study as it were, there's multiple different names for it, it would conclude with recommended building options and sustainability levels that we would be bringing back to Council for decisions. It's expected, the report's expected to come back late this summer, just for a bit of a timeline. So the first phase, this RFP was issued in October for the architectural engineering team that's going to be completing the technical work for us. The RFP closed on December 4th. We received 3 proposals which were reviewed and scored by the selection committee. I should note the selection committee was quite impressed with the 3 we received, that we were happy with all 3 of them. Scoring consisted of a technical proposal totaling 70% of the score, and then a fee proposal totaling 30% of the score. After the committee, with an independent review of each person scoring the technical proposals, along with objective scoring, because the scoring is with 30% for the fee, we can do that as an objective. Carskadden, Stokes, McDonald Architects were the successful proponent, with a fee in the amount of $279,865 plus tax. The dollar value is within the expected range of the budget, so we're recommending Council approve the award of the contract for this firm. And if you choose to award it, public engagement is expected to start in late February. And we're actually already proceeding on some geotechnical tests right now to accelerate the project a little bit.
Great, thank you very much. Are there questions? Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for the report. Just a couple of questions. On the bid that is being recommended for acceptance, does that include an allowance for additional disbursements for the contract, or would those be above the bid that's received?
Graham?
Through your worship, the disbursements are included in that fee. I didn't break them out, but they are included in that fee.
Thank you. And I do notice, and certainly the firm that is recommended for awarding to certainly has a very good reputation for this type of work. So I can, certainly see their interest in it. I'm just wondering, though, was there participation by local island firms, I guess, particularly maybe closer to home than Vancouver, that participated in the bids on this?
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship to Council, the engineering firms, of course, there's multiple consultants building up this team. The engineering firms are local on this group. The architect and the parks planner, 2 of the proposals were from Vancouver and 1 of the proposals was local.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Graham? don't see any. This is a public participation, so if there's anybody, members of the public, who wish to speak to us regarding the this matter, please raise your hand at this time, either online. No one online, I don't think that's right now in our group, but in the room, anybody here wishing to speak to? No, not seeing any hands popping up. So back to this table, maybe
move receipt.
Moved and seconded for receipt. Let's call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions from council? Yeah, Councillor Braithwaite.
Just how happy I am to see this going ahead. So thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. I think I'll also just add, appreciate the work going on to allow work to happen in parallel, so it doesn't sort of, it can be accelerated when time comes to make decisions on these pieces. So thank you for that thoughtfulness. For the discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Thank you, Mr. Graham. With that, I believe our consultant for the dock assessment has joined us online. I don't have a speaker sheet in front of me, actually, so I don't have the last name. Could you just repeat her name for me, Ms. Bay?
Thank you, Your Worship. The engineer on this project was Roxanne Duigou.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can, Ms. Duigou. I think that there was a question that passed to you just about regarding the current docks have a mix of both exposed and contained styrofoam. And the question was just generally speaking, if docks are being built today, what are the standards or minimum standards for that kind of for the flotation portion?
Right. Well, first off, it's not actually my area of expertise, but what I can share based on sort of what I learned going through that process is the polystyrene billets that were the original construction. Those were the industry standard at the time of construction, and that's just the polystyrene itself that is attached to the underside. It's my understanding that the industry standard now is for encapsulated billets. So it would typically be that same sort of flotation material, some kind of polystyrene, but they're now encapsulated in a PVC shell to stop any little bits of material that might slough off over time, and also to stop that that extent of marine growth that attaches itself to the exposed polystyrene material.
Thank you very much. I think I already asked once if there's any public input on this. I don't see anybody online. Anybody in the room here wishing to speak to the matter? Not seeing any. Any other questions or comments at this point? We have a motion live on the floor. Thank you very much for the report, and we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? Report received. Thank you, Ms. Duigou.
Well done. I'll take it. Yeah, thank you.
Should have got prepped ahead of time. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Excellent. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Moving to item number 6.3, we have first, I think, maybe not. We had a small update, I think, in the past, but occupational health and safety update. Mr. Bradfield, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for permitting me to be here. It is exciting. Also, resources team commissioned and brought in, and the main goal and the main aim for this was to reduce injuries and illnesses and start to get a grasp on WorkSafe BC premiums, which is claims management. So I've been with the team for over 2 years now, and we've achieved some excellent things as a team, and I'm very excited to start off this discussion by, if we can proceed to the next slide. Last year, we were the recipient of the Safety Improvement Award from the BC Municipal Safety Association. It's a very, it is a bit of a challenging award to achieve. It's based on an experience rating, and you can see in the graph there, we progressed from an experience rating of 33.6%, and we've managed to get it down to 14.6. that's experience. The experience rating is based off of our claims costs in total that are applied to the district. So essentially, the better we do at claims costs, the lower our experience rating. And that's basically a forced ranking system with how our peers are doing as well. So that's indicative that we are doing a little bit better than our peers, which is kind of nice to be successful at that. For context, the change from 28% to 14.6% in 2023, that resulted in an approximately $83,000 reduction in our premiums for our assessment to WorkSafe. So that's significant, and it's truthfully, it's a very big team effort that has driven this forward, and that's directors, managers, employees at all levels of the organization who've been showing their continual commitment to occupational health and safety in the workplace and their willingness to promote a healthy and safe workplace with others, including their peers. So it's a huge success for us across the district. Very, very proud to see this land in our hands, because the team has worked really hard for it, to be quite honest with you. So that is excellent. If we can please proceed to the next slide there. The award and the experience rating reduction came through two avenues, and the first I'll talk about is workplace safety improvements. So the idea behind this is the safer the workplace, the less likely we are to have a workplace injury or an incident that would result in incurred claims costs and things like that. The big achievements that we've managed to bring forward over the last 2 years include the core OH&S program is now in process. It's available and it's being used by staff. We've also increased our education and training, and that's across the district. That's safety training, that's policy and procedure training. We put a really focused effort to make sure that staff have the tools and the training they need to go out there and do their job safely and interact with their work environment safely. We've also increased employee engagement, and by way of doing that, we've created a SharePoint which allows staff and managers self-service access to all the OH&S program documents, safety bulletins that we produced and put out there, as well as safety committee meeting minutes. And it also provides an avenue to tell the staff who their safety committee members are, which is really important to drive up that peer-to-peer interactions and things like that. So that's another huge part of that there, and that's really highlighting that team effort, how hard everyone across the group has been working at it. On the safety, workplace safety improvement side as well, we've improved our relationship with our regulators, and that's a really big deal. That makes our lives a lot easier, especially when it comes to having those in-field interactions. We're more prone to have friendly drop-ins and discussions opposed to not so friendly. I think I'll just put it at that. And on the other side of that as well, we've improved and increased our communication with our municipal network. So that's not only just in the Victoria region, across the island and across the province. We're interacting with other safety and human resources professionals to get a gauge on what works for them, what challenges they're facing, and things like that. So again, that really brings a holistic approach to improving workplace safety there. If we could please proceed to the next slide. The other side of this is when an injury does happen, when we can't prevent it. We have to claims management. So it's managing, how long those claims are going on, or if there's an opportunity to do something like a return to work program, where we have someone come back to work sooner than later and start integrating back into their workforce and into their group. And since 2021, we've really focused on having active claims management. So that means spending the time of reviewing that claim, what it looks like, trying to get an idea of if we can consult managers and supervisors for ideas on, having folks come back to work, or perhaps work in another department for a short period of time, just until they can kind of re-season to get back into the workplace. Similar to our WorkSafe regulator side of things, there's also a group in the claims management. They have their own staffing groups, and they're very different. But we've also improved our relationship with them as well, and that really helps us. It really aids in having that proactive approach. WorkSafe is aware that the district is proactively looking to return workers to work and seeking opportunities. So they're more willing to reach out to us sooner, and that really helps expedite that process there. And one of the biggest things, and this really circles back to that discussion about the team effort, is managers and supervisors have really shifted their mindset around returning workers to work and getting them back into the workplace earlier. it's not only beneficial for us as an organization because it reduces claims, but it also shows we're a caring employer, we're a fair employer, and people recover faster when they get back to work sooner. So it's again, a holistic approach to it. And it's been a great team success there. I think that's been fantastic. I've seen nothing but support from the managers and directors on that. So if we could please proceed to the next one. So I look at 2024 and beyond with great optimism, as just looking back on what we've achieved over the last couple of years. And I think that in a couple more years, we'll be doing, another really great update where we've achieved even more. In the coming future, we're going to be looking at completing additional OH&S sub-programs. Those are geared at managing specific risks and hazards that our employees are facing in the field, giving them really good guidance on safe ways to proceed with their work. We're going to be looking at increasing our safety training for folks involved in higher risk work to make sure, again, they're even further equipped to approach those situations with confidence. And we're also looking to start doing proactive engagements with work-safe prevention staff. And that's a really big deal, to start getting ahead of things, having meetings with work-safe prevention officers and asking them questions before we even encounter certain situations. And it's less reactive, it's more proactive. It's a very healthy approach to health and safety. We're also going to be seeking to formalize and implement a stay-at-work and return-to-work program, which is going to give even greater guidance and allow managers and supervisors to proceed through returning someone to work even smoother than before. And it's going relatively smooth now, so I'm pretty excited about that. Everyone else doesn't have to be excited, but I am. We're also going to be looking at providing training to managers and supervisors in that topic as well, because it is a complex thing that we do need to make sure that folks are well versed and they know what to do when they encounter these situations. Hopefully we can prevent it before it gets there, but if we can't, at least we have processes for folks to follow. And one of the other things we're really looking at is called a physical demands analysis. We've completed some for certain positions, but we're looking to do even more for more positions, and that gives us more tools, and when I say us, the district, more tools in returning injured workers to work. We're able to give a physical demands analysis to healthcare professionals who are looking to do that return to work discussion, and they have an idea what this individual is going to be doing. So they can say, well, they can do this, this, and this, but they can't do that. So it's really just streamlines the whole return to work process. But it's going to be looking pretty good. It's an exciting time. So with that, I thank you for hearing me out and open the floor to any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bradfield. We will take questions from council. Then we'll go to the public. If anybody is watching at this time, because I don't think we'll have a lot of time here at this table for asking questions before we get to you, Councillor Green and then Councillor Patterson.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you very much, Mr. Bradfield. That was a really good presentation, and this is an exciting area, and I think you should be excited. I just wanted to ask you, what is your potential responsibility in terms of the number of employees for whom your department could potentially be addressing needs? So it's sort of a case management question. How many, just for the public's interest, how many employees are you responsible for ultimately? And that would be, oh, I'm sorry, that would be how many employees do we employ, actually. So anyway, thank you.
Mr. Bradfield.
Through your worship, approximately 500, in excess of 500 individuals at any given time, truth be told. So it's quite a few. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Patterson and Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Mr. Bradfield. Congratulations on this report. I think you've achieved remarkable results over a very short period of time, probably due to both hard work and a high level of enthusiasm for the program. Based on the presentation you gave us, I have to think that the background records that you were available to you when you came to the district were fairly limited. But I'm just wondering if Mr. Bradfield could perhaps share a couple of comments on perhaps what data you're capturing now, so that in the future we have comparatives. I mean, certainly the the financial savings were significant for a small district like this, and that's important, but certainly other statistics about the lost time and whatnot, hopefully going forward will be more of that. Perhaps we could have a couple of comments.
Mr. Bradfield, you don't have to give all the statistics that you're tracking, right?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. Through your worship, it is fair to say that we have greatly increased our data management and the capturing of our statistics. Historic stats were kept very departmentally. I think that is the best way to phrase it. So my role has seen that more centralized than before. So we have a better idea of what kind of the nature of injuries that we're seeing, and the numbers, the departments, the severity. We're getting a better picture of sort of how every group is, what kind of hazards and tasks that folks are facing and what's causing injuries. You know, one good example I can give is that we did have a series of back strain and overexertion injuries. So we were able to track and trend that, and then we arranged training with an occupational therapist to come in, assess the injury mechanism, and then to provide training to all the workers who are involved in that, to, you know, just to give some folks some better ideas on how to lift something properly. I mean, we're all adults, but I mean, who's actually sat there and said, hey, this is how you're supposed to lift this up? And that's one of the values of my position, is we're able to track and trend and have a look at those kinds of things. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bradfield. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks so much, and yeah, thanks for your report. It was great. You said the magic words to me, that you saved $83,000, and that was with the reduction of 19% from 2020 to 2023. So I'm wondering, what's your prediction for the next year?
Go ahead, Mr. Bradfield, if you dare.
Thank you, through your worship. One of the challenges is that we have a net rate, which is what we pay, including our experience rating, and then there's also an industry base rate. So an industry base rate is the flat rate that every municipality or individual who is like a municipality pays to work safe. And the industry base rate has seen dramatic increases. Approximately, I believe it was something like $1, which is significant over the course of 3 to 4 years. So it's really challenging for me to answer that question without a crystal ball. But what I will say is that if we continue to input the effort that we are right now, we will reap the rewards. So. Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, thank you. It's great to hear from you today. I'm curious. I'm sure that not the claims and the injuries don't necessarily come from these activities, but if you could just comment briefly on what the highest risk activities are across the municipal operation and how they're distributed across the departments. Like, where are you going to find those things in the organization? Like, somebody can injure their back working in the office, but the big risks are probably not inside Municipal Hall, I would guess. So if you could just comment on that.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. This is kind of a question a liability lawyer would probably ask. Mr. Bradfield.
Through your worship. Thank you for the question. That is an excellent question. The highest, what I will say is those who are exposed to the most risk are the ones who are suffering the injuries. So administrative staff, we are seeing some, across the district, because, we do have a couple of departments that do have significant numbers of admin staff in the musculoskeletal kind of range, and that's ergonomics and that. But I would have to say those who are involved in physical labor are suffering the greatest number of injuries. And I'll kind of draw back to the discussion around lifting. Last year, lifting was one of our biggest mechanisms or our avenues for folks being injured on the job. And training just like that is exactly what we need to have more discussions around that. One of the benefits to doing group training, because what they did was they brought this individual in and they trained a large number of folks together at the same time, is it promotes a peer-to-peer discussion, which means that you're more likely to see, if someone has been instructed that something 75 pounds should really be lifted by 2 people, when they see their teammate trying to pick that up, they're more likely to go and help them or say, hey, we should get something else to do that. So I hope that answers your question, but lifting and overexertion.
Thank you. And Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Bradfield. Thank you so much for the presentation. I guess I'm interested in, you made a point of mentioning the return to work provisions and just how much time and effort you had put into that. And I think that that's a potentially a bit of a challenge in sort of a smallish to medium-sized municipality like ours. There's not necessarily a broad diversity of roles and those kinds of things, so there isn't necessarily a lot of spare chairs going begging, for want of a better word. So I'm just kind of interested in your sort of observations as to what works well for the district, being sort of that size. What's been your experience plugging people into a return to work scenario, and what sorts of things can they be involved in?
Mr. Bradfield.
Through your worship. Great question. You guys are really on good with the questions tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the engagement. So return to work scenarios are dynamic, and it really depends on the individual's limitations or restrictions that they're provided. And it also depends on the department. We do seek to find work for folks outside of their home department wherever possible. So there's quite a few jobs where part of the job can be split off temporarily to either help catch up with the backlog or to allow someone else to go and provide support elsewhere. And when I say that, at Public Works, there may be an individual who is capable of going and working with a crew while the injured individual is temporarily occupying their spot. And you know, the recycle depot is a great example of that. We would take an individual who is relatively able-bodied. They would go and get some experience working with the crew and get some experience elsewhere, while that other individual would resume and continue working and being involved and attached to their group. And it's very important for that. There's also administrative duties that are required, safe work procedures. You know, if somebody has significant knowledge, we're able to, you know, utilize their skill set to help, you know, move that safety program forward. And facility inspections, there's quite a few different you know, I would say random jobs that do need to be done, and that a lot of folks are doing their best to, but sometimes they don't have the capacity to continually do that. So we're able to use those individuals to support them. I hope that answers your question.
Very good. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
I would just take the opportunity, Your Worship, just while we're on the subject, just for the benefit of the public watching and people, you know, just for people's awareness. We're very proud of the work that's been done in this, you know, on this topic area for the last little while. Just for the public's edification, there's a small to moderate-sized municipality. There is no giant team of folks working on this. It is really Mr. Bradfield who is doing it, and so I just wanted to recognize, I think, the amount of times that I've heard from other members of staff, from directors and other senior folks, and just from staff, where your name comes up, Mr. Bradfield, about the work that you're doing and the benefit that you're bringing to them in their work environment, has been numerous. Your name comes up a lot, and in a good way. So I just want to thank you very much for your work. Recognize it's transformative. It literally is, and it very much rests with you and your work. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Appleton. We're getting into comments now, so I'm going to go to the public. I'm going to get a motion, and we come back to comments. I don't see any members of the public with their hands raised. Anybody here wish to address us on the issue of Mr. Bradfield's work and the health and safety work? No. Back to this table. Can I get all we're doing here today is receiving this report. Before I call the question, taking other comments, but I just want to actually have one quick question before I do that. Do we track near misses? I know on some of the major projects I've been involved with, they've tracked those, so you're capturing the risk dangers and addressing them before they become accidents. So do we do that, Mr. Bradfield? Through me to you, Mr. Bradfield.
Through your worship, we, depending on the severity, and I would like to foresee that in the future we'll be more diligent on and have the capacity and sort of that. It's a good safety program is like a muscle, and it needs good muscle memory before it can respond like that quickly. So if it's a serious near miss, we investigate it, and it is well tracked and discussed at the safety committee and with others involved in work that's similar to it. But you know, very regular, sort of, I would say a minor near miss, not so much yet. We're not quite there yet.
Thank you. And I guess the secondary part of that would be, as we are scaling up our significantly our engineering work, largely through third-party contractors, are we also tracking the work safe issues that happen through those projects through subcontractors as well?
through your worship. It depends on the severity, but there is a contractor management component to the bid process, and through essentially I've had discussions with engineering on some of the criteria that they would be best to be looking for, or would be ideal to be looking for. To my knowledge, we haven't had any WorkSafe interactions with our contractors yet. Typically, if it's all very situational. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. If it's a capital project and it's a district capital project, but we're using contractors, then yes, I would be involved in that heavily. If it's been completely contracted outwards, though, the prevention officer may have a discussion with me on some of the practices they're observing, just to kind of get some thoughts, and that'll prompt a discussion.
Great, thank you for that. In terms of comments, I'm just going to. Probably everybody would like to say how much this has been. I think just for the public center, just Councillor Appleton, you referred to this. This has been a real cultural shift in the organization, and I do want to just acknowledge, Mr. Bradfield, your work on this. Ms. Donnelly, who's the Director of Human Resources, also really instrumental in seeing the need for this and bringing this on board. But when you talk about the team, I mean, it's everyone. It's everyone from the line workers to the directors and the CAO who are all bought into this. So it's been really nice to see that cultural shift, and I agree that this really is a lot of this is the work done by Mr. Bradfield to bring this forward. It's the excitement for this kind of work has been really good, and I just want to also acknowledge that this work has really resulted in those declining graphs, etc. Also, the words got out as well, and I know it's made us a much more attractive employer. It's made it easier for us in a very difficult environment to hire people, for people to know they're coming to a safe and supportive environment. So it's the cost savings, but it's also the cost savings and the time savings of actually having staff on hand because they're coming to work for us. And so just want to express our thanks for all the work that you're doing, and really glad we had a chance to see the report here in front of us. We do have a motion on the floor. If there's any other comments, we'll take them. Otherwise, we'll call the question. I'll just call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much, Mr. Redfield and Ms. Donnelly, for all your work on this. And it's great to get the update. And you're welcome to leave now if you wish. We move now to section 7. This is the only section not with public input. And this is part of our process for resolutions going to AVICC. I'm going to turn over. You don't have to give all the whereases, Director. Councillor Appleton. Greater Victoria Public Library Chair, Councillor Appleton. Why don't you just read aloud the resolution that you're suggesting goes to AVIC? If there's a seconder, we can discuss, but I don't think it'll take a lot of discussion here today.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I am moving the following resolution, and just with the therefore clauses, moving that it be resolved that AVICC call on the provincial government to recognize the evolving and challenging situation for public libraries, as well as their unique role as community spaces, and increase annual core funding for libraries to $30 million in keeping with the request made by the BC Public Library Partners and the recommendation of the province's Select Standing Committee on Finance and Government Services. And be it further resolved that this increase in core funding be increased on a yearly basis in keeping with cost of living and inflationary pressures.
Moved and seconded. Fairly self-explanatory. Do you want to add anything else, Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Your Worship. I did include some fairly extensive contextual material that will be forwarded to AVIC themselves. That's the backgrounder that AVIC requires for their motion. I will add that I have contacted and requested of my colleague. I've worked together with my colleague Aaron Hemmons, who is the chair of the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board, who will be bringing the same resolution forward to her council in Nanaimo for their consideration as well. And I would just add, Your Worship, I think that some members of council may be aware that similar resolutions requesting an increase of funding for libraries have been brought forward to both AVIC and UBCM for a number of years. As chair of the GVPL, I feel it's incumbent to keep the subject in the public eye, in front of the province through this venue that we have, and also specifically because, as described in the backgrounder, the delivery environment for libraries has changed so significantly in the last couple of years in terms of delivering essentially frontline services and services to clients with really complex needs. And the environment for that has changed so quickly and has affected the work that library staff do on a day-to-day basis. And it is a significant challenge for libraries. And so that core funding increase is extremely needed at this time. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Appleton or any? Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Just a quick one, Councillor Appleton, through the Mayor to Councillor Appleton. Which minister and ministry is responsible for libraries right now at the provincial level?
Councillor Appleton.
This is through the Ministry of Education and Skills Training.
There was no public input on this portion, but I do just want to point out for those who are watching and are wondering, this is part of a process for municipalities to impact provincial policy. We could go directly to the province, but they generally don't take requests directly from municipalities. We would go through a regional body, in this case the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, where we have a conference and resolutions process. Resolutions that get passed there typically go to the Union of BC Municipalities, which is a province-wide process. Those resolutions that are debated at that process, those that are approved, go to the province, and they're legally obligated to respond. They don't have to say yes. Most of the time they don't. But that is the process. So if you're wondering what this resolution is, it essentially starts the process where this goes to the regional body. If it passes there, it goes to the UBCM. If it passes there, it goes to the province, and then they're obligated to at least give an answer. They can't just ignore the request. So just for that context, I think we live in a world that we expect everybody knows what these are, but a little bit of background. What's the other discussion on this? So the motion's moved and seconded. Is there any? No. All those in favor then? Any opposed? None opposed? We'll see that on the floor at the AVICC. Moving forward, this does have public input, oddly, just because the process to implement bylaws requires a public input piece, but I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public who wish to speak to us about this repealing of a Heritage Revitalization Agreement bylaw and designation bylaw. I just ask that you raise your hand if you're online right now. This is a really procedural piece in which the time limit has expired. The project is not moving forward, but because there is an HRA and a designation bylaw on the books for us to remove it, recognizing the expiry of time. Odd that this has to have public input, but there we go. So I'm going to make the call right now. If anybody's watching online, please join us and raise your hand and ask to speak, because I don't think this is going to take us very long to get to. I believe we have Mr. Green. I have your name on this. Is that do you want to just give a quick introduction?
Sure. Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. This report is recommending that Council repeal 2 bylaws relating to a Heritage Revitalisation Agreement that Council approved in 2019, which resulted in a Heritage Revitalisation Agreement bylaw, as well as a Heritage Designation bylaw for the property at 602 Newport Avenue. Given that subdivision approval has not proceeded to final subdivision approval and the property owner did not complete the subdivision or seek to extend the preliminary subdivision approval, the HRA expired in July 2021 as stated in the agreement. Staff have reached out to the property owner, most recently in July of last year. Staff met with the property owner to see if they wish to extend the HRA and complete the subdivision, but no extension request has been forthcoming. As such, and while the HRA has actually expired, but to avoid any confusion going forward, staff are recommending that Council repeal the 2 bylaws, which would then also subsequently remove the heritage notation from title. Happy to answer any questions that Council may have.
Are there questions on this? I have Councillor Watson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and just through you to Mr. No, it's not Mr. Graham. You've got you. Thank you. I'm going. That's not the right name. Thank you, Mr. Green. And it is just to follow up on the last comment you made there about the procedure. Given that all the precursor conditions for this are invalid and nothing's happened, is it essential for us to repeal these bylaws, or is it just a good housekeeping matter to do it? So that was my inquiry about why these were even needed to be in front of us.
Mr. Green?
Through your worship, to Councillor Watson, yeah, it's more of a procedural housekeeping, ensure just for going forward that if there is, to avoid any confusion going forward, if different staff are here, that they're aware that it would seem odd that there is still a designation in place, but actually when you actually look at the details and look at the agreement, that actually expired, and so it's essentially to ensure that there is a clean bylaws and cleaning up the property, so to speak.
Thank you. I have a quick question, Mr. Green, through me to you. The designation, I know it was part of a heritage revitalization agreement, but if there's no HRA, then does that exclude the designation? I would think the designation bylaw sort of stands on its own. So I'm just curious about I mean, I grant you that it was part of an overall agreement, so I don't have a particular problem with this repeal. But I'm just curious about is it tied to the HRA, so it has to come off, or is this essentially a best practice because the HRA is now expired?
To the Mayor, to answer that question, it's my understanding that the designation bylaw, the property was designated in exchange for the HRA, and whilst I guess in theory the heritage designation bylaw could remain, I guess there is the notion in the legislation that allows a property owner to claim compensation if a property is designated, and so it would be we would need to get probably some legal advice as to if council wished to explore that of repealing the designation, repealing the HRA bylaw, but retaining the designation bylaw, what the implications may be for both the district and for the property owner, if the property owner wished to pursue a compensation.
I appreciate that clarification. I don't see members of the public hands. Anybody in the audience wishes to speak to us on this matter? Not seeing any.
I'll move receipt.
Seconded for the receipt of the report. I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. I just want to make sure we don't have any, just confirming we don't have any members of the public. I don't see anybody on my screen here, so I just think that covers us. Go ahead, Councillor.
I'll move that the Heritage Revitalization Agreement bylaw number 4732 repeal bylaw number 4854 2024 be read a first and second time.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? This is typically where we discuss. Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed.
And I'll move that the Heritage Revitalization Agreement bylaw number 4732 repeal bylaw number 4854 2024 be read a third time.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed.
And I'll move that the Heritage Designation bylaw number 4733 repeal bylaw number 4855 2024 be read a first and second time.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed?
And I'll move that the Heritage Designation bylaw number 4733 repeal bylaw number 4855 2024 be read a third time.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That'll come back to probably the next meeting for the adoption of those changes. We move to 2 development variance permits. Also have public input attached, so if anybody's online and wishes to speak to us about the first one, which is 2088 Hampshire Lane, I'm going to turn to is it Mr. Green? Welcome back, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a development variance permit application which is requesting a variance to the front yard pave regulation in the zoning bylaw in relation to this new 4-lot subdivision at 2088 Hampshire Lane. The 4-lot subdivision was completed in 2023 and the lots are currently under construction. As part of the conditions of subdivision approval, the district requested that no parking occur along part of the new strata road to ensure safe emergency vehicle access to the 4 lots. As such, the applicant is seeking to increase the width of the proposed driveways to allow more parking, particularly for visitors, on each lot, and this results in triggers a variance for each of the 4 lots to the zoning bylaw requirement of a maximum of 25% of the front lot to be paved. We did send notifications out on this application, but we've not received any correspondence on the application following that notification process. The applicant is also here in the room, I believe. Yes, there they are. And the Ryan Hoyts, as the designer applicant, is also here to answer any questions that council may have.
Very good, and welcome to the meeting, Mr. Hoyt, and welcome to Mr. McAdams. You probably want to come forward because there may be a couple of questions, and you'd probably be best to answer them, or Mr. Hoyt may. But at this point, procedurally, we'll follow the same process we had last time. Questions from council. We'll take, once we've had questions, we'll go to the public if there's any comments or questions from the public, and then we'll come back to this table. What I'll do is, we've had the introduction here from staff. If the applicants wish to speak, we have your letter, we have the information in front of us, so it probably most straightforward if we get to questions and give you a chance to answer them in that format. Yeah, Councillor Green.
Thank you, through you, and thank you very much for being here tonight. Just a quick question. Can you refresh my memory? This is permeable surfacing, correct?
Mr. McAdams?
Yeah, correct. We've committed to aqua pavers throughout the development. That includes onto the strata lots as well for the driveways.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for the applicants? Councillor Braithwaite?
Yeah, thanks. This might actually be through to staff. In regards to the width of the road currently, how much wider would it have to be to allow parking on the street? And is that something that's actually doable?
Councillor Braithwaite. Mr. Green?
I don't know the exact measurements of what the district's right-of-way standard is in our Works and Services bylaw for a local road, but the applicants may know that. That would be more for my engineering colleagues, or Mr. Ball as the approving officer may know that. But the current strata road obviously is obviously built. It was built to 6 metres as a private strata road, and part of that reason was to enable them to reduce the width of that road so that they could then ensure that they could get the 4 lots in terms of meeting the minimum lot size with each of those 4 lots.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And if I may add, so that subdivision has been registered, so the strata road has a certain dimension now, the parcels are created. So it has been explored in early stages of the process, and but at this point, it's very hard to revisit that, given that the subdivision is now approved. Thank you.
I guess that I'm just asking that because it came when I read Mr. McAdams' letter that the request came as a surprise as a strata road width was discussed at all pertinent departments in 2022. So is that what happened in this case, and it just was something that was decided at an early stage that there wouldn't be a wide enough road for that, or did it come as a surprise to the applicants?
It can be both, but go ahead, Mr. Bull.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I think the district earlier in the process was not very clear about it. So in the first bit of the subdivision process early on, there was no clear requirement for no parking on the strata road. So that's how the subdivision was designed, to include that parking all along the strata road. And later in the process, there was further review done as part of some minor changes to the design. And at some point, the district decided, well, it is important for us to have certain fire access arrangements, and that was at that point a change to what was the original intent of the applicant. Thank you.
So, if I may, my last question would be: if we had made that road wide enough to have parking, would there still have been the capability of having a 4-lot subdivision, or would you have had to reduce to a 3-lot subdivision?
Do we know the answer to that question, Mr. Bull?
Yeah, through the mayor. Unfortunately, I don't have that information handy, but it would affect the lot sizes. That's probably where the challenge would be. Thank you.
Thank you. I know there was obviously prior variance just to allow for the turnaround at the end of the tight spot. But are there other questions of the applicant or staff? Oh, please go ahead, Mr. McAdams.
Yeah, I'd like to just address the question that Councillor Braithwaite asked. We could have adjusted the lot lines, so they might be a bit different than they are now, but we could have adjusted them to get 4 lots still.
Thank you, Mr. McAdams. Ms. Watson, sorry, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, through you to the applicants, please. I'm just curious to know that the requests that would need to be met for the adjustments in the front yard are actually quite small. But I'm curious to know those coverage requirements of 25% also apply in the rear yards. Is there anything that can be done at this stage in the design and progress of these projects that could change the amount of lot coverage in the backyards of these properties as an offset?
Is that Mr. Hoyt or is that Mr. McAdams? Either. Okay.
Mr. Hoyt may answer a question, but we're finding now after we've cleared the lots and we're looking at some trees that are staying and everything that there might be less hard surface variance just because of the actual product that's there now. But I don't know if Ryan wants to answer this, but at this point in time, we have a development variance permit, so it's set in stone.
Set in permeable pavers.
Yes, yes. Sorry.
Mr. Hoyt, did you want to add anything to that, or is that a satisfactory answer?
I'll just add quickly that if you look at the overall lot coverage of homes and hard surface, you know, whether that hard surface is attached to the road itself or the driveway, because the road's smaller, there's sort of less hard surface coverage on the road, and just in this case, more has been applied to the properties themselves. So I think in aggregate, we're actually under what would be typically allowed, but it's just adding a little bit more onto the private property and less onto the strata road, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff, out of curiosity on this, because it is a strata development and it's kind of off of the main road, does this require then that signage be placed so that it cautions against retaining a fire lane and so you have no parking?
Mr. Bull?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, that's indeed the case, and there's some requirement for that will be how that exactly will be signed will be determined still, I believe, but that will take place in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see other questions from this table. I don't see anybody online who's indicated they wish to speak. Is there anybody else in the audience here who's looking to speak to us on this matter?
I just have one question.
You have to come forward and introduce yourself. We have a process, so if the McAdams can just step aside a little bit and give them a seat. Just ask that you give your name and municipality of residence, and then you can address council. And turn the microphone on. We have a whole process here.
Yeah.
Name, municipality, and then the question.
Okay, I'm from Oak Bay. I live on Cavendish Avenue. My name is Jim Zosiak.
Thank you.
I live across the street from the development there. And I was just curious because this is all new to me. And I appreciate the fact that the purpose is to have it for off-road parking, because parking in our neighborhood is pretty poor right now. We got a real problem there. I was just kind of curious why on lot 3 they want twice as much hard space as the other lots. Is that because it's a smaller lot, or?
Nope. There's a history to that, and if you want to have a seat, we can either does staff want to answer that, or I'm happy to let the applicants just give the history of that extra large variance on that one lot.
Sure.
That was actually, most of that was previously approved for a previous variance process, but Mr. McAdams?
Yeah, the variance for lot 3 was approved, I believe, in December of 2022 when we were here last year, and it was increased at that time to accommodate for the arbutus tree that's in the development there, and I believe it was increased to about 48% at that time. And we're asking in this particular case, on that particular lot, an actual addition of about 1.5% to make it about 49.2%. So it's very, very minimal on lot 3. Yep.
I'm not sure if the arbutus tree was an adequate explanation. It was to allow the driveway to go around the tree, and that required an extra sort of almost a diagonal access onto the lot, and that gives some explanation. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? I do not see any, so I'm going to come back to this table. We've had questions, we've had public input, so we're looking for motions at this point. Councillor Green?
I'll move the recommendations that the report titled Development Variance Permit DVP 00146, 2076, 2080, 2084, 2088 Hampshire Lane, authored by Bradley Muller, Planning Technician dated January 22nd, 2024 be received.
That was a long version of that.
Sorry.
Motion to receive. Seconded. All those in favor of receipt? Passed. You should read aloud the second one, though.
Okay. That the development variance permit DDP 00146 to increase the amount of paved surface in the front yard for the lots located at 2076, 2080, 2084, 2088 Hampshire Lane be approved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Thank you. There can be discussion at this point. Yeah, please go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite. Comments are welcome.
Just wanted to make a comment to Mr. Zosiak in regards to the parking. I drive that street every day. I know the parking on that street is terrible. A lot of it's due to the Dalhousie Road, but a lot of it's due to Willow School as well. So I think that's something that we can perhaps look at, is to see if there's some things that we can do around the Willow School area to kind of take that away from that area being so congested a lot of the time.
It's hard to do with schools around. Any other discussion on the motion in front of us? I'm not seeing any. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Unopposed? That carries. There you go. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
We move to development variance permit DVP 00148, 1174 Monterey Avenue. I believe back to you, Mr. Green. Oh, sorry. You did inform me ahead of the meeting, so Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. And two things, I'm going to actually just do a brief clarification if I can before I think when I answered on a previous item, when I answered Councillor Watson's question about ministry responsible for libraries, I was thinking about historical ministries. And that's because I'm thinking about historical, which is the current ministry responsible is the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, the libraries branch of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. It has been in a number of different locations over the time that this subject's been discussed. So I apologize for that, and thanks for the clarification, Your Worship. And I do have to recuse myself on item 8.3 because I am in the notification area for that.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll let you leave. I thought you had the right answer for that because that was the ministry when I was the chair of the library board. So they like to move it around a little bit, sort of the hot potato of all the responsibilities.
Which is not a good sign, actually.
It's not a good sign, no. One of the reasons it has a hard time getting funding, I think. Councillor Appleton, you're going to depart us now, I take. Oh, no, you're coming back for coverage. Yeah, thank you. Just making sure. Thank you. Okay, so now that Councillor Appleton has left the room, I will hand it over to Mr. Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a development variance permit application requesting a variance to the minimum lot width in the RS5 zone from 15.25 metres to 11.7 metres in order to facilitate a lot line subdivision application. The applicant intends to build a new single family and second street following subdivision approval. So currently there are 2 lots, however the existing house straddles the current lot line between those 2 lots, and so this DVP is to vary the lot width to allow that lot line adjustment to take place. Once again, no correspondence has been received following notification letters being sent out to neighbouring properties, and I believe there may be, the applicant may be here. Yeah. Okay, great. Happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. Is it Mr. Ricci?
Yes.
All right. So maybe we'll just get you to introduce yourself, municipality of residence. I think we know both of now, but go, if you just
I'm Chris Ricci, and I'm the resident at 1174 Monterey.
Great.
This is all new to me, so I'm a little bit nervous, so just bear with me. And yeah, it's been a little bit of a process over the last 3 months trying to figure it out and develop plans and whatnot, but happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And the process here, it is a little daunting at times, for sure. That desk you're sitting at actually has a long, Tommy Douglas's constituency desk back in Saskatchewan back in the 1930s, and was gifted to us and refinished, and so it's kind of got a long service at making people comfortable sitting in front of public venues. But the process here is just as you've seen. Basically, we have the report, the council will ask questions, we'll have possibly you, possibly our staff will take any public input. Variances are open to public input. Once that's completed, we'll come back here and have a debate and make a decision. So thank you very much. The report is fairly comprehensive, as they always are from our staff. But are there any questions at this point from members of council to the applicant or to staff? Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I guess this could be for the applicant or to staff. I'm just curious with the location of the footprint in the attached drawing being closer to Monterey Street. Is that a contextual setback? Is that the reason why the proposed new house is closer to Monterey than the illustrated house next to it?
To maximize the backyard space, I thought it would be a lot nicer, but also not the existing house on the one side, but the two neighboring properties are also closer to Monterey. So it's actually more in line with the neighboring property of the proposed new build, as well as my neighbor beside me on the other side of 1174 Monterey. So, but it was to really just to give more backyard space, but it seems like it's more in line too with the other two properties.
Thank you, Mr. Beeching. Anything else? All right. Any other questions for the applicant or to staff? Councillor Patterson and then Watson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And through you, I think this is for the applicant. The rationale letter for the submission infers that the applicant will be the developer of the proposed new home. Do the attached drawings that we received in our packages, do they reflect proposed or potential development of the new infill house?
What's the difference?
Well, I guess the thing is sometimes we do have drawings that come to council that are suggested developments that will go in, and then the proponent will actually sell the lot, and perhaps then what is being developed will be very different in appearance. So I'm just wondering if what is before us is actually what is planned to be used as the infill design for the lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I intend to build it according to that plan, and I was trying to have the aesthetic or the look of the home conducive to the existing house beside it as well as the neighboring one. But the plan is to see it that it gets built and live in it.
Councillor Green, your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I just want to
just
make a
for
point.
clarification on that point, though, in terms of what the DVP is the permit that would be issued if council authorised the issuance of this DVP would only include the site plan showing the proposed lot line. Should the applicant wish to pursue a different building design, or if there were variances with that building design, they would still need to come back to council if at the appropriate time. But this variance and the only thing that would be attached to that permit would be the site plan showing the proposed lot widths.
Right. Thank you. I was just going to make that point. It's always dangerous. I appreciate your intentions, but things change, and so our job here is to consider it in the idea that it could be in the broader spectrum of future development as well. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Watson, of course, sorry.
Notwithstanding, thank you, Chair, Mayor Murdoch, notwithstanding what we've just heard, I do have a question for the applicant. If you, in the proposal as it's presented, although clearly you have lots of scope beyond what you've shown us, was there any consideration to using permeable paving instead of concrete for the walkways and the carport?
I've not thought that far ahead. Sorry.
Fair enough. So any other questions related to specifically to the variance being requested here? I don't see any other questions at this time. So are there members of the public who wish to speak to us on this? Nope. I don't see any members of the public online who have indicated through the online tool, through Zoom, that they wish to speak. So I'll come back to this table.
Receipt.
Moved for receipt. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That's just a formality of receiving the official report.
And I'll move that development variance permit DVP 00148 to reduce the minimum required lot line of the RS5 zone for the property located at 1174 Monterey Avenue be approved.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. I do have one more question for staff, if I could.
Yeah.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Mr. Bowl. In terms of front yard setbacks for building lines, how much range is there in that particular zone in terms of how far how house frontages have to match up, or how much room there is to play along that frontage?
We'll let staff confer. Mr. Green?
So we have two front setbacks in the district zoning bylaw. We have a front setback, but then we also have a contextual setback, which is based on the two adjacent lots. And so they would need to comply with that or seek a variance, but we haven't received a survey plan showing what the contextual setback is in relation to, because the surveyor just did a survey of the existing lot, didn't do a survey of the two adjacent lots, which would be required to calculate the contextual setback.
That satisfies my question. Thank you very much. There is a contextual setback.
Do you have a further question, Councillor Bridges?
Yes, well, just on that, would that then mean that the lot that he also owns would be one lot for the conception? Yes, and then on the other side. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Don't see other questions or discussion. I have a motion on the floor, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. That's one more step in the journey. And back to staff to go and work on the other aspects of this. So thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
That actually, we need to have a motion to adjourn back to in camera.
I'll move adjournment to go back in camera.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? What's that? Sorry? Oh. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. And good luck with the project.
Thank you.